Our next guest is best-selling author and historian James Bradley. He's out with the new book, The Imperial Cruise, A Secret History of Empire and War. And James, excited to have you here. I'm a huge fan of yours. Tell me about how basically Teddy Roosevelt screwed everything up in 1905 with one cruise around the world.
Well, it's an amazing hidden history. I wrote 2 books about World War II in the Pacific. My dad fought on Iwo Jima. And after finishing these books, I wondered, why was he out there in the first place? Pearl Harbor is given as the explanation. But I looked at Pearl Harbor and realized Pearl Harbor was not the invasion of America. The Japanese hit Pearl Harbor so they could continue with their game of expansion in Asia. My dad didn't go to Iwo Jima to defend his mother in Wisconsin from a Japanese invasion. He went there to stop Japanese expansionism. And when I realized this was so, I went and looked for the root. What was the root of this expansionism? When did Japan take the first step? And what was America's policy? And I found that in the summer of 1905, President Theodore Roosevelt dispatched the largest diplomatic delegation to Asia in U.S. history. A boatload of congressmen, senators, and administration officials steamed from San Francisco to Hawaii, Japan, Philippines, China, Korea, and back to San Francisco. 100 years later to the month, I followed in the wake of this imperial cruise and went where they went, and I was shocked by what I found.
Now, you talked about this imperial cruise. Was this Teddy Roosevelt taking manifest destiny even further west, not stopping at the water's edge?
Yes, sir. All secret. In the summer of 1905, Theodore Roosevelt won the Nobel Peace Prize for brokering a peace between Japan and Russia. Unknown to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, unknown to Congress, are the things in this book that Theodore Roosevelt agreed a secret treaty with Japan on this imperial cruise in 1905 that allowed them to take Korea. Why is that significant? Japan's an island nation. They needed Korea to start their expansionism. When they went to Korea, it was Theodore Roosevelt who had anointed it. You know, Pearl Harbor, FDR said sneak attack. This is terrible. That was the second sneak attack that Japan used to start a major war. The first was under the administration of Theodore Roosevelt when the Japanese hit the Russians. Sneak attack, Russians said terrible. Theodore Roosevelt wrote secretly, and I quote, "I was thoroughly well pleased with the Japanese victory because the Japs are playing our game." What was the game that Roosevelt was referring to? It was the game that he thought Japan would represent America in Asia.
Interested in how your personal story plays into this. There's that iconic flag-raising photo after the Battle of Iwo Jima that we all have ingrained in our minds. And your father is actually in that photo?
Yeah, my dad is right in the middle. He's the guy, you can see the full silhouette. He's the second from your right.
And of course that inspired Flags of Our Father, which is
influence for you.
Yeah, which is just a great book and turned into a great movie. But it's so fascinating how you just stumbled across a box of mementos that your dad never talked about it, very quietly, and that has started you on this mission to Asia.
It started the whole thing. With Flags of Our Fathers, I write about what my father did on Iwo Jima. With the Imperial Cruise, I write about why he was there in the first place. Wow. It was these events in 1905, secret events kept secret from the Congress and the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, that ignited the events that would later sweep my dad from Wisconsin out there to a little island of Iwo Jima.
Amazing.
Willie?
James, TR has been celebrated and sort of romanticized as this rugged individualist, but I thought it was interesting reading through your book. You kind of shoot some holes into that perception of Teddy Roosevelt.
You know, I have the same, I'm a patriotic American. My dad raised the flag. I went to Mount Rushmore, saw Theodore Roosevelt. I didn't realize he was the first public relations president who managed his persona. He was often sick, but got up there on the horse. I found that he put the first tennis courts in the White House. You can't find any pictures of him with tennis whites. Why? He wrote why. He said, "You'll never find a picture of me in tennis whites. It's not good for the manly image." He said, "Pictures on horseback, yes. Tennis, no."
Ahead of his time, with the media age, right?
Ahead of his time. He was out there chopping wood long before Ronald Reagan.
So you really think that what Teddy Roosevelt did at the start of the century in 1905 shaped the entire century and not for the better.
He lit the fuse. He said to the Japanese, America and Japan and Britain are going to take over China. He had theories. China was a declining race. Japan was an ascending race. Congress wouldn't give Theodore Roosevelt the money he needed for troops to use his big stick in Asia. So he said to the Japanese military, I'll use you on the sly, on the secret. Agreed a secret treaty that gave Korea to Japan. He green-lighted the problem that my father and a few million other people would have to go out there in the Pacific and deal with.
Unbelievable. James, thank you so
James
much.
Bradley, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I'm a fan.
All right, thank you. We are too. Big fan of yours. I can't wait to read this.
The book is called The Imperial Cruise.